Uncorked. I'm Sid.
And I'm Sharfuz, and we're super excited to be here with everyone today. This is our first session on Wednesday. Sid, what do you think of when you think of Careers Uncorked in the first place?
Yeah, so Careers Uncorked is like a super cool place where Sharfuz and I get to talk to some really awesome people. We usually do it once a week, but now that it's twice a week, it's going to be really cool. So, Sharfuz, why don't you tell them about a little bi-weekly story of ours?
Yeah, no, dude, I'm glad you brought it up. So everyone, so today me and Sid, we decided to do something different for this session. We actually wanted to prepare and not just go without any preparation. And we realized we were debating about what bi-weekly meant for like literally 30 minutes. Apparently, bi-weekly can mean twice a week and also once every 2 weeks. Like, we're still arguing. We don't know what it means.
It's like the yin and yang. It's very confusing.
But for Careers Uncorked, it means we're gonna be having sessions twice a week now. But if you guys know what bi-weekly really means, drop in the comments and we could end this debate once and for all. So yeah. But dude, Sid, so like the other day, right? I was like wondering about this thing. Like, did you ever have like anything or anyone like named after you or anything like that?
Not necessarily named after me, but I was actually named along with another person that is actually pretty popular. His name is Sid again, and he's from a movie called Ice Age. It's a sloth.
Oh, yeah, it's like that thing. It's like that cute sloth with those funny eyes and has a lot of those funny moments, right, in the movie, right?
Looks just like me, right?
Dude, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, the sloth's actually like, pretty good looking. But yeah, dude, we should watch the Ice Age movie again, just an FYI. But speaking of which, that's what really excites me about our guest today, because she is actually someone, and get this, guys, there is actually a day, January 28th, which is called Grace Chukowski Day in the village of Fredonia in upstate New York. Like, I don't even have my cake named after me for my birthday. She has a day named after her.
That is absolutely insane. So let's bring on Grace and hear more about this from her.
Yeah.
Hey, Grace.
Hey, guys. Hey, everybody.
So tell us a little about the story. We're really excited to hear.
Yeah, let's just start off with that. Like, forget intros.
Great. Yeah. So just the backstory to Grace Chukowski Day. So I nominated my hometown to be featured on a reality TV show about small business and entrepreneurship and really revitalizing small towns across America. And out of 6,000 towns that were nominated, my little town in upstate New York won. And so because of my efforts from the initial application and as being a member of the steering committee and helping to drive vote for the town and doing a lot of social media and all that stuff, they named a day after me. So mark your calendars, January 28th.
that is like that's like really cool. I mean, you definitely win the tell me a fun fact about yourself game every time, I guess. So that's like the ultimate story.
Most definitely. It's also like you get to celebrate 2 birthdays.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. But yeah, Grace, we're totally thank you so much for just taking the time for our session, for our list, hanging out with us today. And you have such great experience in the recruitment industry and in so many places after graduation. But I was wondering if you could like give a little short intro about yourself, like how it has been for you.
Yeah, definitely. So after college at the University of Rochester, I started my career in aerospace defense manufacturing. I worked in purchasing and production planning, and then I kind of decided I needed something to feel a little better about than working on my projects surrounding defense industry. And so from there, I went and worked at a nonprofit and worked there for a while. Really missed kind of being in the business realm and went from the nonprofit to I wanted to keep working with people and moved over into HR back at another defense manufacturer. So went back into that industry, but got to be on the people side of things. And so from there, now I work full time as a recruiter for an HR solutions firm. So we are working with all different companies. We are in like 60 countries, and really get to work with a lot of different people now and help people find jobs.
Wow. Sid, here I thought I was a people's person, but Grace definitely Grace definitely wins that one.
No,
That's
most
amazing.
definitely. It's really exciting to hear about like the job changes, the career changes, and the industry changes. I know Sharfuz personally has had experiences changing jobs from one field to another. Sharfuz.
Yeah, I changed. I was a software engineer in my junior year in college, and I realized I was pretty bad at it. Well, I think my grades and comps should have given me that before I joined an internship in the first place. But yeah, no, I was like, oh, so it was definitely like a lot of experimentation for me, and you have been so bold with your career, which is really amazing. But Grace, speaking of that, right? I guess one thing I was curious about, like when you look back at college now, what do you think are like a couple of those significant experiences you think had a big role to play to get you where you are today when you look back at college?
Definitely. So the things that really stand out to me aren't necessarily like academic things per se. I did have some great classes, some great professors, and things like that. But it was more so my involvement that I was able to get leadership experience, and through that, I think that that was the thing that really opened up more doors than anything else for me because I definitely am a leader where I can help identify problems and I immediately want to jump in and fix it. And so taking on higher level leadership roles, now that I've been a manager and had people working underneath me, taught me how to delegate to people, not have to do everything myself. Something I struggled with a little bit,
Yeah.
still struggle with some days. But I think that that was more so like the biggest thing was getting involved, getting leadership roles, and then really building a network. So not just at school, but finding opportunities that, whether it be through internships or be through other things like some of the groups that I was in, I was able to go to conferences all over the country or different things like that, where I was really able to build a broader network. And that was another thing that's been hugely impactful throughout my career.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, Sid and I, we were also like pretty involved on campus, and that we could definitely relate to that. But I think it's great to see how you were able to like just convert your managerial leadership experiences in college and to like management roles in the industry. So to all the college students listening in, take notes, guys. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Definitely.
Definitely.
That's a really amazing point. Go ahead, Grace.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for example, I was in a sorority. I was the vice president of membership recruitment. I have always had something to do with recruitment throughout my, like, since then. I've done recruitment for nonprofits. I've done other types of like recruitment for other organizations that I've been involved in as a volunteer, and now that's my career. So something that was like that little spark of passion from something that I tried in college, and now that's what I do full time.
Wow, that's really, really amazing. I mean, honestly, I've had so many people come up to me and ask me like, "Oh, do I really need to do extracurriculars in college?" Whereas like I could just get a good degree and then focus on making my GPA really high. So that's really insightful coming from someone who's been in the industry for a number of years now.
yeah, no, absolutely, Grace. It seems like your recruitment career began from college, and you you had a plenty of opportunities to learn. So, no, that I think that's a really great example of that. And like so, like after college, right? You said like we noticed like from your LinkedIn, like you jumped or like you transitioned from like some different places, and you had some great experiences over that across the period of time. So I was curious, like, what's your mindset what was your mindset at that time? Because a lot of recent grads, we hear that they get a job after first year, but they want to change. They don't know if it's a good fit for them. How did you navigate all that?
Definitely. I think the biggest thing was that, like, just trust your gut, with some of that stuff. Like, when I knew when like, one of the last projects that I worked on when I was doing production planning, which I loved doing production planning. I liked all the moving parts, and I liked being that involved in the process. I just didn't really like what we were making. One of the last projects I worked on was literally called small diameter bombs, and I just, like, it didn't fit well with my values, and I just, like, it was too close to what actually was. I couldn't, like, disassociate it. And so it really started me thinking about, like, okay, what do I value? What are the things that are important to me? And was super heavily involved with a ton of nonprofits and volunteering already. And so I was like, you know what? This is something I really enjoy putting a lot of time and energy into. how can I thread that passion into something that could be potentially a career. So I figured if I'm gonna make a change and try something else that isn't necessarily like within my natural kind of wheelhouse or the direct path that I'm on, the time to do it was earlier on. You have more kind of liberty to try and fail rather than getting like stuck into a super like specific where I was like senior director of operational excellence at a manufacturing plant, and then I can really only go to like other manufacturing plants and do similar roles once they're kind of in that track. So I figured since it wasn't something that was really lighting me up, giving me that fire in my belly, it was the time to try something else. And that ended up that I really wanted to be more on the business side of things. I enjoy working with nonprofits and volunteering. I still do some consulting for nonprofits
Mhm.
as a kind of side business, if you will. But the I really missed the business aspect and like the strategic element of being involved in the business elements. So that's kind of what led me back to being at a for-profit company.
Right. Yeah, that's really amazing. That I just love how you like sort of followed your fire, like followed that passion that you realize it's not for yourself, and you just took that initiative, and you. It seems like you stayed true to the to your what would I say, like the interest towards like working for nonprofits and working for people. Like you never lost that, and you like stayed true to that. So I think that's really cool. Like
Yeah, I found that moving into HR, my degree's in psychology, so it was kind of
yeah,
a natural fit.
Yeah.
But it also kind of got to marry those two sides of me, where I really enjoy the strategic piece and
yeah,
really driving business forward. But I also really like the people piece, which has kind of led me to where I am now.
yeah.
That's
No, that's
really, really great to hear.
yeah,
So here's what I'd like to do next. For people just tuning in, I saw a couple of people just join in. I think we'd
yeah.
like to jump on to the next segment, which is essentially your role as a recruiter, right? So this is something we're really curious about. What does it look like at Adecco, and what's the day-to-day like for you being a recruiter there?
Yeah, so the recruiting that I do is what a lot of people call like a full cycle desk. So I manage both the candidate side and the client side. So I am working with clients, I'm doing business development, sales, um, negotiating the contracts, all of that stuff, getting then they'll give us job orders to work on, that type of thing from the client side, and then managing that relationship throughout that entire process until someone's placed in that role and maybe they give us some more roles to work on, whatever that might be. And then from the candidate side, it's definitely like people reaching out to me all the time asking if I can help them find jobs, things of that nature. I'll have an initial conversation with them and then try to see if there is a good fit for any of the companies that we're currently working with, or I'll try to market them into other companies that maybe we don't have an active contract with or active jobs open with. And then also from the candidate side as well, sourcing talent for those job openings that the clients have given us. So it's definitely like playing kind of both sides of the
Mhm.
ball there. And a typical day basically is I break my day up into kind of like hour long chunks of different types of work because there is a lot of different things, whether it is
Mhm.
like sourcing for those jobs or interviewing candidates or doing reference checks or have doing business development or having a sales meeting. So I kind of break it up into different chunks. But one of the things about being a recruiter, especially when you are working on, I guess like any type of role, is that you have to talk to people when they're not at work. So
Yeah.
like if I called you Sid at 9:30 on a Tuesday and you're sitting at your desk and your coworkers in the cubicle next to you, like you can't really do a good interview at that time.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things is that we definitely have to take into account is like I get up very early, normally like 5:30 a.m.
Wow.
But I will start work and when people want to talk to me, or I'll block off a couple evenings a week for when people want to talk to me, or I'll take a couple hours on a Saturday morning and schedule a few interviews then because that's when people are available and can sit
Mhm.
down and have that thoughtful conversation about what is the next step for their career. So
Mhm.
one of the things definitely with recruiting in particular, for an agency, is some of those things to consider. There's also like I only work on full-time direct hire permanent placement roles. So full-time roles, the candidates will be a direct employee of the client of the whatever company they get placed at. There's also like temporary staffing, contract staffing, or even if you want to go more of the corporate recruiting route, then there are internal recruiting opportunities directly for companies as well. And we've even staffed, like I've hired recruiters to work at specific companies too. So there's definitely a lot of different kind of ways that you can be involved in the recruiting industry.
That's really really interesting. So you sort of manage both the sides of
Yeah.
things, which is really that makes me really curious. Something I'd like to hear about is when you do sort of look at a candidate, right, for a particular role. How do you sort of line up the two sides? How do you line up like, okay, this person's a good fit for this role? Is it through the resume, the cover letter? Like, how exactly do you find that part out?
Yeah, so we use a lot of different kind of techniques for sourcing candidates. So I primarily base just on the types of roles that I work on. It can kind of vary. There's different um, platforms that are better for different types of roles.
Hmm.
A lot of the like more high level roles that I work on, in particular, it's in like supply chain or in manufacturing a lot because that's kind of the world I come from. So I work with a lot of manufacturing companies.
Hmm.
And the higher level people, for the most part, I'm finding them on LinkedIn. So that's my first snapshot of what they're all about. Is I see their LinkedIn before I ever see a resume or anything, because I'm finding them more often than they're applying to my job posting.
Right.
And that's just kind of the nature of the market. People are a little bit more passive right now because we have seen a little bit of a shift with COVID
Yep.
because more people are furloughed and looking for work and things of that nature. So there are a little more people applying, but prior to that, it was definitely people were kind of fat and happy where they were.
Okay.
But so I use LinkedIn a lot. We use kind of like Career Builder, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, some of these other tools as well. I
Mhm.
find that maybe they aren't, or maybe like the data isn't as good in some of them, or they aren't as up to date, or they're better for like more technical jobs. But I get really creative too. Like I did a naval architecture role. There's only
Mm.
like 10 really good schools for naval architecture in the country. So like I looked at their alumni networks. I didn't like go through these other
Yeah.
avenues too. So it kind of can depend on what type of thing you're looking at. Once I do have that resume in front of me,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at dozens of resumes a day, so I want it to stand out. I want the pertinent information to be right up front.
Yeah.
So if there's things that are going to set you apart, like I one of my biggest like pet peeves I would say with resumes is when it reads more like a job description than
Mm.
what you achieved in that role. Like tell me what you did. Like I can,
Yeah.
for the most part, I'm going to know what a financial analyst does. Like
Right.
it can vary from company to company or what function you're in or things of that nature. I know
Yeah.
what a financial analyst does. How did you contribute to the financial analysis of your company while you were in that
Mm.
role? So that's what I'm really kind of like trying to pull out of people. And a lot of times that takes more of a conversation. So the biggest thing that I'm trying to do is get people on like an initial phone call, even if it's just like 15 minutes, and
Yeah.
start to feel each other out to see if there is going to be that kind of synergy for that match.
Wow. That is really, really interesting. And
That's
Shirfuz, I'm sure you can relate to the LinkedIn part because I know Shirfuz has recently started getting active on LinkedIn. So tell us about that, Shirfuz.
Dude, it's been crazy because I've been like, I like honestly, Grace, I made my LinkedIn account when I was a first year in college, and I probably signed up back on it like what 2 months ago, and I literally started making like posts and like writing my because I was so scared about LinkedIn and just what to post and is it like Facebook or Instagram? Like no, right? So like I guess that brings me to this question. Like, do you look into what kind of post or the activity of the person you're looking into? Like, does that ever strike out to you?
Sometimes I find like I'm a very active LinkedIn user, just because of the nature of my role. I also have not just the front end of LinkedIn that you all see. I have a special back end version for recruiters, so I can
Right.
search for people a lot more detailed,
Mhm.
and things like that. So that's another kind of like interesting aspect of
Yeah.
LinkedIn, is that I'm having a very different user experience than most people. But on my LinkedIn, I'm posting articles. I post a lot of video content. There's not a lot of people doing video on LinkedIn. So like
Yeah.
that's an easy way to like immediately differentiate yourself. Even if I'm like new month, new goals, like
Yeah.
here's what I'm trying to achieve this month. It can be something like totally innocuous like that. It doesn't have to be something that's super like industry specific. Let me do a deep dive. I want to be the SME on this thing. Like you don't need to do that. And I think like I look at people's like I think people underestimate like what types of things recruiters are looking for on their LinkedIn. So for example, like your bio, like you should always put something there. Like even if it's just, hey, if you're really actively looking for jobs, put your email address. Like give people an easy way to contact you. Don't make me hunt you down and have us message back and forth for like 4 weeks. Like a job opportunity for you. I want to get a hold of you today. So like put it in there if you're looking. If you are trying to make a career switch, and you can use that section for like what you're interested in. So even if you don't have direct experience in machine learning or artificial intelligence or data sequencing or something like that, but that's really what you want to do, write that you're interested in it, and you'll still come up in people's searches for it. So there's ways to kind of like trick the system a little bit. Other things that I frequently use, like definitely make sure you have things like the basics, like your jobs, even if it's just like the title and where, and the dates. Even if you don't put anything else, like put that in there. Internship experiences. I have listed in mine like every class I took in college. I don't know how necessary like that is, but I think when I first started out, that was an easy way for people to see, oh, you actually have experience in XYZ. You can also like put skills in there as well. So that's the thing that I'm using a lot, especially like if I know my client uses Yardi software. I want someone who already knows that. That's going to be an immediate way to set them apart and differentiate them from other people if they already have that type of thing. So fill it out as much as you can. I think that's the biggest thing. And then the other big thing with LinkedIn is like don't just go there when you want something. That's like my biggest pet peeve with LinkedIn. Is people just post like looking for an internship or they I don't know, just they are always like going with their hand out. Like, give back to the community for it to give to you. So like engage with other people's posts, share other articles that other people are doing. If you're going to share an article, like don't just share something from Forbes. Like I can find that it's probably on top 10 trending. Like actually read the article or at least skim it and pull out like here's my takeaway. Here's my take on this. Here's why I disagree. Things like that. So like be contributing to the community, and that's how you're going to get the best return.
Wow, that is absolutely
I
amazing. That really struck with me.
I need to hear that 2 years ago. Exactly today, like 2 years ago. So that's amazing. Wow, like wow, that's really cool. I guess like this strikes out to me. Like I always look at like people's like recommendation. I'm like, oh, and then also like if there are endorsements. So do you think that matters for people, especially like students? Do you think recruiters care about that?
I look at it once in a while. Honestly, like once I've talked to someone, I'm asking them for their references. Of course, the references are always going to be like generally pretty positive on there. So it is like a little bit of like rose-colored glasses type of thing. Whereas like if I'm talking directly to your reference, then I can get a little bit more information out of them. But it is nice. And if you see certainly like I'll look at people and they're like, oh, they have like I just hired a communications associate in Baltimore, and the person had like all the great qualifications, but they also had like some things that I might not have known about because they were endorsed for event planning by like 46 people, and I was like, event planning? You don't have anything related to that on your resume. Like, tell me more about that. And the job I was hiring for was actually for a nonprofit, so it was really helpful to have another member of their team that can help with events. And so that's something that like you can kind of try to figure out a little bit more information that might not be something that's like been directly related to what they've done in their career so far.
Right. No, that absolutely. That definitely makes sense. That was some like really good insight. Just making it as relevant as possible, and just I guess target it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to jump in there. I think something I'd like to hear, and Grace, this is again volunteer if you want to share,
Of
but you
course.
did mention something about the back end of LinkedIn. So I think it would be really helpful for our viewers to hear about like what are some common search criteria that you use to uh, find someone that's a good fit for a role? Is it keywords? Is it like some filter that you use in particular?
Yeah, so it has a bunch of different filters that are available to us on the back end there. It does use like Boolean search strings as well, so you can kind of piece things together if that's
Mhm.
how you'd prefer to work. If you're looking for certain keywords, a lot of times I will do searches based on a job title.
Hmm.
So that's something. Also, go in there and like a lot of times I'll put the location
Yeah.
and I'll put it as like the current or willing to relocate to. So especially for people
Uh,
that are in college, if
Hmm.
you are open to moving to San Diego, Philadelphia, Miami, or New York, put those in you're willing to relocate to so that you come up in those searches for
Hmm.
recruiters as well. Otherwise, they might not know about you if they are using those location searches and those filters. Things that I use a lot would be things related to people's degrees. I like to see how long people have been enrolled or how long they've been in their career.
Yeah.
It's one thing as well. Your career on LinkedIn starts from when you log like your first job, even if you like switch industries and things like that. So that also like if you can get those early internship experiences, like you're technically adding to your career experience
Hmm.
on LinkedIn. So that's another thing. Like if people are looking for 1 to 3 years experience or 3 to 5 years experience, if
Yeah.
you put those prior things like your internships you'll still come up in their searches,
Mm.
so you'll just be getting more visibility there as well. um, Other things like it would be a lot of times is specific softwares. If there's any software that you've touched, well, like I interned at a doctor's office
Hmm.
yeah.
while I was in high school for like 2 years, and so I know all about this like medical software that not a lot of people use, but except for if you're in the medical field. And when I was my degrees in clinical psychology, so I was kind of toying with like, do I want to do something more clinical? I put that on there so that people would know, oh, you actually already have used this.
Yeah.
Um, Things like that. LinkedIn does also have some like certification things that they can
Yeah.
do now for some specific softwares, more so like Microsoft Office Suite, and some. They also have it for some coding languages and stuff like that. So you can get that little like blue check mark on
Yeah.
those skills on LinkedIn, and kind of like prove to people that you actually know how to do that, which is another kind of cool thing. But yeah, I think that like the back end, it has tons and tons of ways that I can kind of do things up. Another fun tool in there that I was one of my favorites. They have a find other people like option.
Mm.
So if I find some, like if I had John Doe was hired for this company by
Yeah.
me last year, I know that they already like John Doe, so I can put his name in and find other people like him. So that's another kind of something that
Oh,
I personally use and like a lot from the functionalities of the back end of LinkedIn Recruiter.
That's so cool. Like there's
wow.
like a
That
whole
that
new
is
world.
that's really awesome.
Like this is a whole
Yep.
different. I had no idea about all of this. This is like crazy. Like
Yeah,
it's
It's
just,
like you open the door to Narnia.
yeah, I know. Like now we can
behind the curtain.
yeah,
Yeah, literally.
we can figure out like how to like beat the system. Like just keep pop up in every like every search out there. Just like put things out there.
Oh
So
yeah.
That is very, very awesome. So here's what's next, right? I'd like to jump into our favorite section, which is called the rapid fire section. Um, and just to set the ground rules, super quick, whatever comes first top of your mind,
Question.
just shoot at us. So to get that started, I'll go ahead with the first question. What's a little known fact about you?
I used to be a cheerleader for a professional sports team.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, follow what sports team?
For the Rochester Rattlers, Major League Lacrosse team. They're now the
Wow,
Dallas Rattlers. They have since moved to the franchise, but yeah.
Wow.
that's amazing. Okay, next one. Uh, so dream career slash company. What would be?
Honestly, I would like to eventually probably work for myself and do HR consulting, um,
Ooh,
and kind of do talent acquisition, diversity recruiting, corporate wellness type of
Mm.
consulting firm. We'll see kind of which track I lead.
Yeah. No, I think that sounds really awesome.
Yep, that is really, really awesome. So my next question is favorite food.
Favorite food? I don't know, probably like any fruits. I've been eating a lot of cherries lately because they're in season. So I think that anything like that is definitely always a go-to.
Wow.
We were expected to hear Rochester garbage plates.
Not for me. No.
All right, next one. Favorite book or podcast?
Favorite podcast is Crime Junkie. If you like to hear about murders and spooky things like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one, although I do get very like jumpy
Yeah.
when I'm listening to it for too much. Favorite book, I really love Walter Isaacson has like this like genius series
Yeah.
on biographies, and I've read them all, and so that's always like a good go-to as well because I could love to talk to people about Benjamin Franklin. So
Wow,
That's
that is really cool.
yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, right before we move on, I'm just gonna turn this off. I got a comment saying that I look like I just got resurrected.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's sun setting here, so it's in all two directions.
I was gonna say, if you ever wanted to go into the light, dude, you're there. You couldn't have picked a better time to go into the light.
Yep. All right. So moving on. What is the longest resume you've ever seen?
Probably like 9 pages.
Ooh.
Yeah, people that have been in their careers for a while, but like don't often apply to jobs, like they get
Mhm.
recruiters that call them and then they just like get a new job.
Yeah.
They seem to just like, continuously add stuff
Yeah.
and don't think that they need to like pare it down. If you're ever like getting to that, like if I put every
Think-
experience and everything that I've ever accomplished on my resume, it would literally be like 4 pages. I You always put like a relevant experience section instead of just like all of my experiences under the sun. Like they just want to
Yeah.
know what's relevant to them. So that's I guess one of
All
the
right.
things that I see.
yeah, so college students out there, don't make a 9-page resume. FYI.
I won't read that.
Okay, next one. ATS, real or not?
Oh yeah.
Real?
So yeah, like applicant tracking systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like everyone's using them. So like every company has them. There are some kind of like cheats to them.
Mhm.
Some little hacks that I've heard. So like if you are, I got one of the things is that I always tell people, look at the job description, look at your resume, mirror their language. It can be something so simple like that. That is why their applicant tracking system isn't going to pick you up. So if
Mhm.
you're looking to do you're applying to a business development role,
Mhm.
but your last 2 roles were sales manager and sales associate, you're just not using the same term. They're the same thing in essence,
Mhm.
business development and sales, but
Yep.
somewhere on your resume, make sure that you're saying
Yeah,
you were responsible for business development so that they know that you're doing that. Like little stuff like that can be just like super crucial in terms of that thing type of thing. Because even though a lot of like these ATS systems are using more like machine learning to pull out the best people
right.
or give people the best matches, there's always going to be like a human element to it too. So it could be just that someone is searching those keywords and you're not
Mhm.
coming up. So make sure that you're using the same language
That's
as
so cool.
whatever job you're applying to. And then there's also like this other hack that I've heard, and I've actually had a couple consults with some other people that have had success with it recently, where they like when you take your resume, it's make it a PDF before you upload it.
Yeah.
But before you do that, in the footer, like copy the job description of what they're looking for, or like put the keywords of what they're looking for
Mhm.
in the footer in white and make it tiny. And then do your thing, make it a PDF, and then then those words will automatically come up when they search for it.
Wow.
Wow, that's
So
something.
there's no way to like beat the applicant tracking system because it's still like the system's still going to recognize that those words are there, but to the human eye, they are not.
Yep.
I'm genuinely amazed. I've never heard that before. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, that's my like that's the best hack that I have right now that I've heard has been working for people. So you never know. I mean, if you're trying to be, you really want your resume to bubble up to the top.
Yeah. So people take those notes, but don't end up having the company's mission statement as your mission statement. That might get weird. But yeah.
Yeah, don't plagiarize, but
Stay up.
Yep. Next up, personality type, Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs. If you've ever done that.
I have. So my personality. You're asking what mine is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an ENTJ.
ENTJ.
Yeah. You know, the
Yeah,
J
awesome.
is very evident. Than the fact that I've been judging people all day, every day, and helping them get the right job. So yeah, just always judging people a little bit.
That's amazing. I really love Myers-Briggs, and I'm an ENFP myself, so I really love that. Yeah. So what superpower would you want to have if you could have any?
I think just being able to like teleport would be ideal. I could like teleport to Bali like for the
Okay.
night. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Sign up for a friend option as well. Then your friends would love you.
That's awesome. I thought you were gonna say like sort of teleport anywhere so you could interview people in person, but I guess it's a little counterintuitive.
Video chat's doing all right for us in the COVID time. So
Oh yeah, definitely. All right. Last question. Favorite co-host, Sid or Foods?
it's tough. I can't make a decision on that.
Okay, perfect. So we actually thought about this. We came up with a solution because we had a similar situation last time. I've got two pieces of paper here. One's green and one's yellow. Pick a color.
Green.
Green. All right, let's see.
Okay, I don't.
He might have put it on
what the other paper says.
There's no way for us to know. He might have put it on both of them.
I think
Okay.
I think there was two of
You're
them.
not that deviant.
All right. Grace, thank you for being such a great sport, and that was really fun. And I know, I think this is one of the things we've been really excited to talk about is that what's happening in the current situation, especially with COVID and so many students and so many opportunities, students losing their opportunities and people losing their jobs as well. So we want to just curious to know what has your experience been on that other side? What did you see a gradual change of things? Did you see a sudden change of things? What was it like?
It definitely was pretty sudden. In terms of kind of what we saw in the industry, we went from kind of chugging along. Q1 was rocking and rolling, just better than last year, year over year for the quarter, and then for that April was where we really started to see a big hit because with all the shutdowns that started kind of mid-March for the most part, we really didn't see it until April, and that was when people really full stop pumped the brakes and were like, whoa, what do we do? So most companies that we were working with went on hiring freezes. People that had offers extended and accepted, they were delaying start dates and all kinds of stuff. So it was definitely pretty sudden in terms of that. It was, however, pretty dependent on industry. So I do have some clients that are pharmaceutical manufacturing. Obviously that doesn't stop ever. Mm-hmm. So while they were kind of okay, we're trying to figure this out, we need to be maybe moving more slowly or a little more cautiously, they were still had the need for roles, of course. So there was some things in that industry where we're still moving, but it's going slower than what we're used to. Then there's other industries like commercial real estate, for instance, people are not leasing storefronts. That's just not going to happen. People can't go to stores. So if that is your industry, that's your bread and butter, then we really saw a lot of things that were very like industry specific in that regard. Of
Mhm.
course, like travel, hospitality, services, those got hit really, really hard. And we see that kind of in the back end as well with some of the roles that we work on. But then, of course, there's always going to be other opportunities. So there was in things like insurance, medicine, biotech,
Yeah.
things of that nature. There's still a need. There's always going
Mhm.
to be a need. So it was kind of pivoting toward, and I know like for another one that was kind of like a little bit shocking was like mortgage industry was doing well. I was like, I'm not moving now, but rates are really low.
Yeah.
So some
Yeah.
people are. So just kind of watching the economics of it to kind of see what was going on where. But yeah, it was definitely kind of a hard stop. But now we are starting to see a lot of those things that were put on hold are starting to open back up. People are starting to kind of be a little more decisive about things. And we are starting to see kind of a bit of a resurgence now, even like
Mhm.
the early stages of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. Because it's just been so like dramatically, like it changed from our side of things. Because like we have seen so many students just posting about how they lost their internship. So many internships got canceled, and like it's been crazy. And like me and Sid, we had students reach out to us and just showing how they have like been struggling with finding opportunities. Um, but yeah, that's crazy. Like Sid, like you have like seen like so many students reach out to you and like so many people losing their jobs, right?
Yeah, most definitely. It's not even just internships, it's also the jobs, people being laid off. I feel like that's harsher because it's something that you use to like feed your family, to like run your home. And when that happens, it affects more people who are even joining that firm, right? Like Uber,
Yeah.
for example, let's talk about that for a second. There's people who are working there who are being laid off right now. So it's nearly impossible to get an internship. Even if you do get an internship or a job, you're going to be in a situation where you're like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like this may happen again, you know? Um,
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in terms of like the advice that I've been giving to a lot of the collegians that I work with, and people that I've talked to, even some of my clients that can't, they are companies that I work with that they had to cancel their internships and they were coming to us being like, can you help these kids
yeah.
find other opportunities? And again, they're just like not really there with the way that things currently are. So I was coaching a lot of them and talking with them and just telling them like don't let this kind of setback be a completely wasted opportunity. Like,
Right.
still find a way to gain experience, whether that is going and taking like a certificate course and getting certified in like something like Google AdWords has a
Mhm.
certification, or doing a Coursera course, or something to continue to bolster that resume. Or if you really, really want to work in a certain industry, like find a smaller company, and maybe you're not going to have that like paid internship that was your dream job and you were going to live
Mhm.
in New York City this summer with your two best friends and it was going to be like the summer that you were like living for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like that's just, I'm sorry, it's like probably not reality at this point, but like you can still maybe reach out to a smaller firm or reach out to a smaller consulting firm, and they
Yeah.
probably still need help. They're probably still hurting.
Yeah.
They might have had to lay people off and they're super short staffed, but they still have the same amount of work or whatever it might be. And they could use an extra set of hands. So maybe it's not going to be that paid internship that you were hoping for, but you can still intern with them. Like you can still be an intern. You don't, even if you don't get paid, or find a nonprofit. Like if you want to go into like web design, find a nonprofit that their website could really use a facelift, and reach out to
Yeah.
them and be like, hey, I'm a student. My internship got canceled. I would love to do this for you pro bono.
Right.
And then you're like giving back to your community and you're getting some more experience. So there's just still ways to continue to gain experience in those things. And
Mhm.
especially if you are like finding a smaller firm, like maybe you aren't going to get the internship with Google that you thought you were going to get, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
like maybe you can work for another company that big service provider to Google, or
Mhm.
something else like related to that. So there's other things you can do, and then you can still be like networking in that same sphere too, and still
Mhm.
building connections as well. So you can still get a lot of the same benefits of having that internship without having like the official title and maybe being in like the program that you had envisioned.
Yeah.
That
No.
is really amazing to hear. I think you answered like three major questions there, which I
Yeah.
just want to really quickly cover. One was how to pivot. I think that's really important,
Right.
understanding what's going to happen next. Like you mentioned, like tech is an industry that'll potentially be hiring in the future. So maybe learn web design. And you can do so. You could do so by taking a course on Coursera or taking a pro bono
Yeah.
internship or a job per se. And then I think one other thing that you really mentioned that stuck out was right now, firms and nonprofits alike, they're suffering. So they
Yeah.
could use all the help, but they're not in that position where they could be like, oh, we're looking for someone. Can you please help us out? So make that active effort to go reach out to them,
Yeah.
offer your services, like personally go network with them. So those are some major takeaways for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Said, thanks for like. I think that was like. I think that was very incredible. Just like I think, and I guess like because especially for students, but like so like even like for like more experienced professionals, right? Who are perhaps depending on that income, like that day to day income, right? Like I guess it must have been like much more crazier for them, right? And a lot of people may feel that they cannot like switch to a more voluntary role per se. Like what would you tell them would their approach be? Like what do you think they still upskill themselves for the next opportunity?
Always be upskilling.
Yeah.
Always, always, always throughout your whole career. I mean, I start my day, I set a timer for 15 minutes and I read a professional development book for 15 minutes before I do anything else, like pretty much with my day. Like that's in like the first four things I do after
Yeah.
I roll out of bed. So always like be a constant learner. Um, always be the student. But for those people, of course you have to be putting like your your family first, and you have to be able to make rent or your mortgage and put food
Yeah.
on the table and all those things. But if you're looking to into that next career and you kind of have identified that next step, or even if you know a company that you like you can still network with those people virtually. So even like if I'll find people when I'm like just doing my thing on LinkedIn, or someone will like my post and I'll go and look who they are, or things like that. And if I find people that I am interested in their career path, like they may have started in a as a recruiter and then they moved to a like corporate talent acquisition role and now they're like a VP HR and then they started running their own HR consulting firm. Like that's like an ideal career path for kind of what I'm thinking I want to do with the rest of my career. So I'll reach out to that person and just be like, I think that your career path is really interesting. I'd love to talk more about it. Can we hop on a call for 15 minutes on
Right.
like that's all it has to be, and I'll attach that little note to my LinkedIn invite, and people
Hmm.
love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
So, and that's like another person that you're interacting with, and even if you can identify like I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I think I want to do something in emerging technologies, or whatever that might be. Like, start finding some people that are doing that, and ask them how they got into it. Ask them what for advice, or kind of send them a LinkedIn message. Like I send people LinkedIn messages all the time, whether I
Mhm.
have a active job for them right this minute or not.
Yeah.
I might just be like, oh, we have this other thing in common. Like let's talk about it. Or I don't want to talk to you today, but I might want to talk to you down the road.
Yeah.
So I want to be LinkedIn with you now so that when I do want to talk to you down the road,
Yeah.
and you're available to me. So continuously be building your network.
Yeah.
And you can do that again, like on LinkedIn, or there are tons of other virtual things going on that you can kind of seek out right now as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. No, definitely like I think that's so much like I think valuable insight for like for our viewers listening in. And I just like consistently like I guess networking in that on LinkedIn and just like building those connections. And I know said like I and this one thing that always and I keep talking to you about this. Like a lot of the LinkedIn connections I sent, people don't accept it. I don't know if it's me or I don't know if it's a message I'm sending. I've always been curious, like, what is it you send in those 300 character messages that to make it most effective? So I would love to hear your thoughts on this because I suck at it. I'm really bad at this.
Yeah, so I mean, I make sure some things that will get people to like not respond to you is if like you have a bad picture. So it could be just like bad lighting, it could be old, it could be like very grainy and just like not a high quality image.
Right.
Or a picture of like four dudes and they're all wearing suits. Like or like someone who's like clearly it's a stock image and they're like very, I don't know, like writing at their desk, and it's very like um, things like that, where it just like doesn't feel like authentic. I think that the big mistake people make about LinkedIn is that it has to be so professional and so buttoned up all the time. But like, that's not reality anymore. Like, I had a call with the president of my company who he manages like over 16,000 people. And he is in like polo shirt, unbuttoned, in his office, like chilling. And I was wearing a sweatshirt. Like, we're seeing into other people's lives in a different way now than what we've been used to. So like, you don't have to be, and people want to connect with someone who they feel is like authentic and genuine. Like, you can't form a true connection if you're just getting like the resume paper, like perfect version of someone. It's not really real. In the messages that I send to people and those kind of things, it literally will be like, your career like path sounds so interesting. I'd love to hear more about it. And if I'm sending it to people from U of R, like when I first moved to, I live in Washington D.C. When I first moved to D.C., I didn't have a big network in the area, and networking is a huge part of my job. So I started just going to like the alumni page and like sending messages to everyone who lived in or around Washington D.C. that went to U of R, and whether they graduated in 1968 or they graduated last year. And I would say something like, new to DC, I'd love to hear about great spots, Meliora. And and I literally put Meliora in there, and that was like, I think people were like, "Oh, you're funny, like that's great." And people would like say it back to me. So it was just kind of like that little thing that was like, we all know it's a little bit of a joke, but people also like kind of take it seriously. So I think just again, like, don't try too hard to be like so stoic on LinkedIn. Like, have a little bit of personality. Like, I do my LinkedIn videos like probably at least once a week, sometimes more. And sometimes it'll be like, I just went for a run. I'm like still in I'm not my running clothes, and I want to let people know about an event that I'm going to be at later that day, or something that came to me on my run that I was like, oh, like revelation, I need to share this with someone. And I'll just like record the quick video and send it out there. And most of the time, I do it like one take and hit send, and it's out there on the internet forever. So
just one take and send on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I don't know where you got. I need to get that courage somewhere. That's insane. That's so much. I mean, wow. Like, it took Sid a lot of convincing to get me on this live session. So I was like, that's amazing.
I'm live. I'm like still kind of figuring out a little bit. I kind of wish that LinkedIn had like a live feature though. I'm like,
they do. It's beta.
It's beta.
Yeah, they've got a ton of stuff in beta right now. Yeah, I'm like, I want to play with that feature. I'm hoping to get some access. I've been talking to my contacts at LinkedIn to be like,
we're excited to see that since we're on your LinkedIn. So looking forward to that.
All right, that transitions us really smoothly to our next segment, which is Q&A. And for that, I'd love to bring on one of our friends onto the screen. So up here is Mas. Hey, Mas.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for sticking around. I know you've been back there for like 20 minutes now.
Oh, really? Oh, good. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, I'm learning, getting a lot of information and like important stuff right now.
That is exciting. That's really exciting. So just a quick introduction of Mas. He's been on the team. He's helping us out with UI and also the website. So thanks, Mas, for being here. You want to quickly introduce yourself in terms of your background? And I know you had a question for Grace, so you want to ask that question as well?
Yeah, of course. I'm currently a senior in UNC Chapel Hill. I'm trying to do graphic designs and advertising with like a branding focus. So yeah, and then like I've had like a non-traditional, I would say, like a college experience before college and even during college. So like I was just gonna ask, my question was gonna be regarding like, I know you've kind of like went over answered already some of my questions, but I'm just gonna ask again to reiterate. Was like, I recently got on LinkedIn, like I think about like 10 days ago, basically. So what can I do on LinkedIn, or like, what is it that the recruiters look for in LinkedIn for like somebody like who's looking for a job in graphic designs and stuff? And I haven't had the opportunity to do a lot of internships or things like that to beef that up yet.
Yeah, definitely. I would say in terms of more like creative roles, like some people really want to get like super creative with their resumes. And a creative role that's totally like appropriate. I would consider maybe having like in terms of a resume like two versions. But other things you can do specifically on LinkedIn is just like be sharing your work. If you have things that you've done, put it out there. Again, like you can get testimonials, cross tag other companies and stuff too. So if you did logo for Careers Uncorked, tag them and let them know that, like, let your people know that you are responsible for this, and take ownership of it. Let people in behind the scenes of like what your process is like, how you work with your clients, things of that nature, and start building that portfolio. And so I would probably consider having like a digital portfolio, like creating a website that hosts all of your work as well. Specifically if you are in more creative roles. So like I've done some like communications roles or like PR roles. Like I want to see how people write. I want to see, and so if they have a blog or they have done like news articles, or if they work with the newspaper at their college, like get all that stuff together and put it in one place that you can easily share with people as well. So that's another thing. Like if you've done 5 different websites, like maybe it doesn't make sense to necessarily like link all 5, but maybe you can build your own website that links to your work. Or you can use some other technologies like I have an Instagram that has like Instagram, you're only allowed to put one link. So I use Milkshake and I can link multiple links to it. So there's some other kind of tools that you can use to be able to share that information as well. But I would say just put as much stuff out there so that people get a good sense of, again, like what type of product they can expect from you.
Thank you.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, insightful. Like, yeah, I really like the like putting your work out there and like tagging the like if I've done for logos and stuff like that. Because I am currently working on opening up a website, but like it's in the process. So
Yeah, of
there's
course.
definitely a way I can like do like tagging and stuff.
Yeah, if they're fine, if your client's fine with it, then definitely like share it, link them, tell them that, and just let people know like, yes, I did this. And there might be like different options of it too, or you can show like version 1, version 2, version 3, so that people again can like get a better sense of what your process is like too. So even if they said like you can't unveil a certain thing yet, or there's going to be an unveiling of like the new branding, like you can pixelate, like you can use a tool to pixelate the thing and be like, oh, it's going to launch this day, and like build anticipation about it, like use that kind of like curiosity marketing element to create more content without actually having to like create more content. You know what I mean? So you're kind of like teasing it, and then the actual content comes out, and then you can do like another follow-up post that's like, oh, you may have seen the rebranding of XYZ company. I was responsible for that. Here's what it was like to work with them. Thank you so much for your business, kind of thing. So like out of that one piece of content, you're really getting like 3 touch points with your audience.
That's a lot of great info, Grace. Thanks a lot. I think that was definitely helpful. Especially, I think that would be very relevant for a lot of like first year, second year students, and who are still early into their career, and how they could improvise on that. So that sounds really good, Mark.
Most definitely.
I'm all about like making as much content out of as little effort as possible. So even if it's something so simple, like you're going to a virtual career networking event next week, post the day before telling people I'm excited to go to this thing. Post a picture of you there, take a picture of the screen, post it, and then afterward follow up and say thank you, Gartner, Deloitte, E&Y, and L3 Harris for sponsoring this event. So you're getting again like 3 touch points 3 times that you're showing up on people's feeds for one thing that you did.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful because like think about LinkedIn, it's kind of like everyone thinks it's professional and stuff, which is true, but at the same time, no one realizes it's like a networking platform. So like the way I heard you like talk about like creating more like I guess traction and doing more, that's like it's something very simple, but like also I was like, oh, you can do stuff like that. So pretty cool.
I mean, it's based on people putting content out there. So the more that you're using it, then the more returns you're going to get, the more followers you're going to get. and stuff like that too. So like even I have people that like aren't connected to me that follow me on LinkedIn because they want to know what I'm doing, even though we're not like a connection.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to jump into the next segment, which is really, really awesome. This is the first time we're doing this, and we're really excited. So
Yeah.
thank you for volunteering to be in this situation with us. Um, so I'm going to quickly pull up some resumes, and Moss has actually had the opportunity to go over them. So he's going to quickly introduce them, give a brief background, and then we'd love to get some feedback from you on what you would recommend for these people to do.
Definitely.
So I just pulled it up on the screen.
I think it's
Right. So here we have recently graduated senior who's in like the special 5-year program in the University of Rochester, studying in like biomedical engineering with a minor in music. And I think they're looking for a job in that field. So we wanted to ask you quickly to like skim the resume and see if there's anything that stands out that you would change or like emphasize upon, or like what stands out to you, or what would you look for particularly?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing that kind of jumps out to me is that it does seem a little like busy. Like I think that there could be, just from like a formatting perspective, there could be more white space or more stuff added as bullet points. So again, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about like a resume not necessarily reading as much like a job description as demonstrating what you were able to achieve in that role. So for example, something that I might change or tweak would be like for like orientation office, I would say maybe like if you're only doing it because it has multiple roles, I would maybe put those dates all lumped together on the same line as orientation officer, and then not have any dates associated with that, and kind of carry that throughout, so that from a formatting perspective, it's a little easier on the eyes. Other things is that it's very text heavy, so anything else that you can kind of pull out is super helpful as well. So if there are specific like technologies that you've worked on, or a project, or like a specific, even if it's not like a work experience, but like an internship, or a like, I don't know, like I know seniors in BME at U of R, they do like a final senior project. You can talk about that, and also like adding more numbers in. So numbers really help stand out in the text as well. So anytime, the way that I always kind of explain it to people is anytime you were able to like make money for the organization, save money for the organization, or any achievements. And like I say money, but that could also be like time or efficiency. So if you were able to like cut down the lead time on a certain process from being like 7 days to 3 days, then you've actualized a, I don't know, 63% reduction in that lead time for that process. So being able to include some of those numbers will really like jump out on the page to people as well if I'm taking like a quick scan of things. So those are like the kind of quick things that initially jump out to me at a glance here. Hopefully that was helpful.
That's really great. Just one question I had personally from me, looking at resumes, I've not seen too many with different color schemes and sort of different fonts. What are your thoughts on like having color and different type of fonts on resumes?
I mean, again, kind of take it or leave it. The one thing that kind of going back to what I said about like, especially if you're in a creative field, like you can use your resume as something to stand out. Like if you're a graphic designer, or you do like user experience design or something like that, like you want people to see on your resume that you're skilled in that field. So use that as an opportunity, but be very mindful that if things are very like image heavy, or isn't reading like traditional text, then you may have issues with those ATS systems. So I would have two versions of your resume. If you're uploading it to an ATS system, upload the one that is like the more traditional version first, and then if you are able to upload a secondary document, then you can upload that more like pretty version that is kind of showing a little bit more of that stuff. I mean, most of the resumes that I see are very traditional, black and white. I think a lot of people are moving more toward being on, like, having a website or things like that to highlight some of that work.
For
That
sure,
is
yeah.
great
That's,
info.
that's definitely a great
I
feedback.
just had a follow up question with terms of work experience for based on the resume. Like, so like when somebody's listing out their job experiences, like, and with the bullet points, like how important or like is there like an ideal limit to like the bullet points, or like how description, or like what would be like a relevant description that they should put or avoid putting?
I would say there's no like magic number. I would say, like, if it's important enough to make it to your resume, like, you should maybe tell 2 or 3 things about it. Don't I would say a resume should be like pages or less. But if you need to go on the back of the page, like, that's fine. Like, if that's going to be more like aesthetically pleasing, that's okay. When you get into 3, 4, 7, 9 pages long, then it's definitely excessive. You need to pare it down. Um, but I would say, like, you can add in a little bit more, or again, like, find different ways to highlight some of those things. Like, if everything has a similar theme, then pull that stuff out and put it into like a relevant skills section or something like that, like right at the top, so that people can see that you have experience with this type of software, that you have done, you've been in a sales role, you've been in a customer facing role, whatever that might be. So you can pull some of that stuff out and kind of bubble it up to the top to make it easier for people to see as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that was great. That's a lot of good pointers, and definitely is going to be very, very, very beneficial for a lot of people who are tuning in. We have another one, right? Bob?
Yes. So we have this is another resume. It's coming from like I believe it's they're a rising junior from University of Rochester in comp sci. They're doing a bachelor's in comp sci and bachelor of arts in finance. And I think so. What would be some pointers and tips that you would give somebody who's like a junior to, like, when they're looking for jobs or like internships coming up in this?
I think the student is particularly looking for a software engineering role next summer.
Awesome, definitely. My brother is actually a software engineer, so I'm very familiar with that type of role. He works at Walmart, so if you're looking to move to Arkansas, definitely let me know. He does. He's like on their collegiate recruiting team and stuff too. But yeah, so I would say for some of the things that stand out here, I would let people know like what type of projects, like, it tells me a little bit about them, but you can also like right underneath there, like the way that I've done it in the past, like if I've worked at a small company that maybe people don't necessarily know, or like I want to highlight that a company that I've worked for is a Fortune 500 or things like that, I'll put a little line underneath the company's name, like in italics or something that's going to kind of set it apart a little bit. It'll say what it's about, what they do. And so that might just give people a little bit more intel as to what you've been involved in. So if it is a like AI game, then again, just kind of telling people maybe like what type of platform that was on, or things of that nature that you might want to put in there. Again, I see some numbers in here. The numbers piece, I think, really, really, really helps. Can't reiterate that enough. And some other things I like about this is like being able to just quickly see some of the achievements. Other things that I might consider adding would be any like one thing that is very, I don't know, maybe like take it or leave it, that people are a little, I guess, torn on. If you have any like skills that set you apart that is maybe not directly related to your role, but again makes you a person. Like I have on my resume that I am a nationally certified like cheerleading judge and yoga teacher. I am not a yoga teacher at my job, but I put that on there because it shows an element of what I'm passionate about, and it shows an element of my personality a little bit. And that makes you, even though they're just seeing that 2-dimensional resume, that makes you come alive a little bit more, kind of pop off the page. So there is some opportunity to do that as well. But yeah, I think that the I think that those are some of the things that I would maybe just focus on bolstering a little bit. But otherwise, I think this is pretty. I would say for someone who's like early in their career and doesn't have as much experience, this is something that I would be interested in looking at.
Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. That's definitely some really good feedback. I remember that. I think that one question that that student has about GPA. I think he personally reached out. Like, should he put his GPA on the resume? And can he skip doing that?
You don't need your GPA unless people ask for it. I don't think I have my GPA on there. I've had an employer ask for a transcript before, but I would say that that's like pretty few and far between. And also, like, that's probably only ever going to happen like at your first job. Once you're in your career, people don't really care. Like, C's get degrees, kids. So
He's getting.
But yeah, I would say if there are other things, like I have put on mine, like scholarships that I've received, if any, like I was on Dean's list for these semesters, things of that nature. You can put that on there. But if you're not super proud of your GPA and you don't think that it's going to be a huge benefit to you, I would just take it off.
I see. Yeah.
We all pause. I had like a follow-up question because like this is something I personally struggle with. Like when it comes to resume, and we kind of touched up on it. What's like an ideal length, or what's like, I know 9 to 10 pages is too much, but like should it be like a 1-page, 2-page thing, or like is 1 page better than 2 pages?
1 to 2 pages. I would say format it in such a way that it's either 1 full page or 2 full pages. It kind of like when it is 1 page and then like a little bit on the second page, like then I'm like, what was the point of that? Like, was there not something?
Yeah.
Did it really need to be like that? I think like take into account that kind of stuff. Also, like some places will print things still. Shocking, I know. Like I'm not one of those people, but I know people that love to have a physical piece of paper. So print your resume out and like actually look at what it looks like when it's printed out, because that may be like, for example, like HR might be just looking at it on the computer, but when you go into the interview with the actual hiring manager, they might have printed out your resume to hand to them so that they have it in front of them. So print it out and make sure that it lays out in a like logical way and it's not like too abrasive on the eyes.
Cool.
For sure. Yeah. No, that's a really good feedback. Yeah.
One question I had, Grace, and you covered this a little bit, was at the bottom. I actually have a hobbies section, and that is just because my resume looks very, very professional, and I sort of want to add like a personal touch to it. So I sort of mentioned that I was in the rowing team or something like that. I like cooking. I make TikToks, but I don't mention that I make TikToks. So there is a sort of a line between there, but I'm sort of wondering, is that something good? Is that something a recruiter looks and they're like, oh wow, like this person actually has a life outside of work? Or
yeah, I would say like on my resume personally, I have a section that is like volunteer experience. That gives a lot of information about what I'm involved in outside of work. Because I'm in a women's community service organization. I'm in the junior league here in Washington. I'm still involved with my sorority. I'm their chapter advisor. I do a couple other volunteer roles with the sorority. So like I put that stuff on there because that is something that I enjoy doing outside of work. I do also have like a little thing that says like I'm a yoga teacher. Again, are they hiring me to be a yoga teacher? No, but that is a piece of something that I'm interested in. I'm involved in. I have a yoga Instagram account. If you guys want to look at the yoga I do every day, like you can do that. So I think that it's nice, and it gives people like something else to talk about too. I'll like if I know I'm talking to someone from certain areas, like I'll ask about sports teams or things like that, just to again like make it more natural. People want to connect with people. At the end of the day, like if you're in the top 3 running for a job, everyone's going to meet the basic qualifications. Everyone's going to be able to go to C++ and Java and whatever and use Microsoft Office Suite. Like everyone's going to be able to do those things if you're getting to that stage of the interview. At that point, they're hiring you based on your personality, your communication skills, your potential. So that's the things that you really need to be able to communicate when you're going through the process.
That's really awesome. That's great to hear. And I'm sure these students will really appreciate all the feedback that you've given them.
Yeah, I think one of the students there, I think it is 4 a.m. right now in somewhere in Europe or something. I think he's out watching this. So definitely really that. Yeah.
That is awesome. So I think with that, we can just jump into sort of the last segment. So Grace, from you overall, what would you say is the best approach that someone should take right now at this moment to prepare for the job market post the pandemic? Like, what would be your number one recommendation for someone to be ready for that stage?
Yeah.
I would say just keep connecting with people. The jobs may not be there today, but they will be there eventually. So keep building your network, keep learning, keep upskilling yourself, or reskilling if you're trying to pivot to something different, and keep informed as well. Keep reading industry news, keep following people who are involved in your industry or subject matter experts and things that you're interested in, and just keep informed as to what trends are going on in that industry, and then general economic trends as well. I know most of us here now work for like publicly traded companies, things of that nature. Like you need to know what's going on with your organization. We're all on those quarterly earnings calls, even though like, yes, I'm contributing to the bottom line, but I'm not controlling the P&L, but I still need to be informed. So just keep learning and keep educating yourself on those things.
Yeah,
that's great advice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, Grace, there's been like so much great things you have said throughout this whole call. Like, I do this takeaway thing the next day after our calls, and I'm gonna need like probably 5 hours to like get my takeaways from this call. So thank you for that. But this has been amazing. Like, said, like I feel like there's like been so much good things that Grace mentioned and shared with us today.
Well, definitely. It looks like you have some homework to do too, Shafuz, on your giving you some amazing points.
Wow.
All right. So with that being said, I'll just jump on to sort of a wrap up. So Grace, just quickly, we're going to send people to your LinkedIn. So go follow Grace on LinkedIn. You can scan this QR code here to get straight to her profile. This is a new millennial thing we're trying out. So all the millennials, scan that. Go follow Grace. She posts awesome content. I've been following her for just about 2-3 weeks now, and I always engage with her content. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
For us, you can go follow me and Shafuz on LinkedIn, as well as follow Careers Uncorked. We have a website. Go check that out. We have our previous videos lined up there for you guys to view. Mm-hmm. And then, Grace, anything from you? Would you like to give a shout out to maybe a person or maybe your Instagram page or anything of that sort?
I guess. I guess other things. I know I've said 72 things I'm involved in outside of work. I also own a business with my partner. So if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's Elbow Athletics. It's an athletic wear store. So that's something else that I do outside of work. And I mean, thank you guys for having me. I definitely feel free to reach out to me. Anyone who's watching, tuning in after the fact, ask me questions. I'm definitely here to be a resource and be helpful however I can. For the pandemic stuff, we'll get through this all together, and we'll be reaching for that next rung in all of our careers. I'm excited to watch you guys continue to grow.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, everyone. We're shutting down.